And we begin, though, with the passing of Rochester civil rights leader Reverend Franklin Florence. His legacy of freedom and equality echoing across the community tonight. His life covering many chapters of history in Rochester. 13 Wham Cheyenne Walker met with his son today. Cheyenne, good evening.
Good evening, Matt. Minister Florence's son tells me he admired his father for the leadership and says behind his passion for making change, he was also a funny man. Clifford Florence holds a picture as he remembers a prominent civil rights leader, a minister, and community organizer. But most importantly, he holds a picture of his father.
He's probably one of the greatest organizers in the history of this city and county that walked the streets of Rochester since Frederick Douglass.
Florence moved to Rochester in the 1950s. He became the founding pastor of the Central Church of Christ. He would later go to become the first president of an organization called FIGHT, which worked to combat racism and rebuild minority communities.
The rebellion back in '64 took place on this property. And I think it was a vision that my father had, that many of the businesses that were here moved away or decided not to come back, some of them, and it gave the FIGHT organization an opportunity to come back and give something to the community.
Reverend Franklin worked with other leaders like Malcolm X, who visited him in Rochester just 5 days before his assassination.
But they were good lifelong friends and worked together on a lot of issues here locally. And my dad had him here several times and was not always well received, but he had a great message for our people and others that would listen.
Clifford said he learned from his father to take his education seriously and work hard, but also have a sense of humor.
My father, that people probably wouldn't know, he was a prankster, and he liked to give you a lot of jokes, and he would give you some surprises in terms of that.
And Florence said his father believed there was still more work to be done, especially with confronting racism.
Gene Wham's Carla Rogner went to a vigil in his honor. Carla, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Matt. Those at the vigil tonight say Nichols and all other victims of police brutality should still be alive today. It's why they continue to gather to call for changes to policing. And for some, tonight's message was personal. Joe Prude says he knows exactly how Tyre Nichols' family is feeling right now.
I can sincerely feel that man's moment's pain.
Dozens gathering to remember Nichols in Daniel Prude Square at MLK Park. It's named after Joe's brother, who died in March 2020 after an encounter with Rochester police officers while experiencing a mental health crisis. While standing next to a mural of Daniel, Joe says he is sick of seeing violence by police.
It's like I'm reliving it all over again, you know what I mean? And it's like every time I see something happen to a young black youth or black female, however the case may be, I'm tired of seeing that shit now. I really am. I'm tired of seeing that. But that don't make no damn sense. Every time you wake up and turn on the damn TV, it's another black being slaughtered out here.
Community members joining in, sharing a similar sentiment.
Because of the way that our policing system works, a man was lynched. So that's why I'm here.
This isn't, something that can just stay in the news. We all want to be participating in helping bring change.
For City Councilwoman and activist Stanley Martin, Nichols' death renews the calls for police reform.
We're here to revive the calls for abolition, revive the calls for defunding, and revive the calls for reallocating funding from police into things that actually serve us.
Martin says it is disappointing to be here talking about another victim of police brutality.
So it is really painful. It is really devastating that we're here again. And we're hopeful that this turnout and people paying attention again will result in actual systemic changes.
For Prude, too, it's exhausting to continue to gather in times like this.
It's bone draining. I'm the only one still talking about my damn brother.
But he will continue to say his brother's name, and this community will continue to say Tyre Nichols as the calls for change grow.
Say his name.
Tyre Nichols.
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 Now, after the police body camera video was released last week showing what happened to Tyree. Rochester Mayor Malik Evans and Police Chief David Smith sent a statement saying they were shocked and horrified, and that the city and police department are working to establish a higher level of trust here between officers and the community.
This is 13 Wham News at 10.
The leaders of RG&E and NYSEG speaking out on how the company is responding to the state investigation into reports of billing issues.
I think we can take actions, but the actions have to be well thought about, and it takes some time. But I think we're very comfortable, with the work, the teams are doing right now.
The State Department of Public Service Commission began hearing concerns from RG&E and NYSEG customers today amid an ongoing investigation into billing issues at the company. Good evening, I'm Matt Malloy. For months, customers have reported issues like inaccurate and missing bills. 13 Wham's Carla Rogner sat down for an exclusive interview with company leaders today to ask them what they are doing about those customer concerns. Carla, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Matt. Today I spoke with the CEO of RG&E and NYSEG and also the CEO of their parent company, Avangrid. These company leaders say they are hearing these concerns and taking steps to address them.
There's absolutely no way I should have a bill for that amount.
That was a common sentiment among the RG&E and NYSEG customers who joined virtual hearings with the state DPS, sharing concerns about high bills, delayed bills, and in some cases, no bills for months on end. Avangrid CEO Pedro Azagra and RG&E and NYSEG CEO Trish Nilsson explaining the company is still recovering from staffing shortages and the pandemic when staff couldn't go inside homes to get meter reads.
And I think that's what we do well, to help people to continue having a service. I'm not concerned about those investigations because, we welcome the feedback. We like people, telling us what's going on so we can amend it.
There are steps being taken to address billing issues, including the hiring of hundreds of new staff. And the company is settling into a new billing system that was put in place over Labor Day.
We've caught up, and that's part of it. So people who weren't getting a bill, who maybe had 4 or 5 months that they hadn't gotten a bill, are now receiving those bills.
At the same time, Azagra says the company is also focusing on investing into updating nearly century-old infrastructure so utilities can continue running smoothly.
20% of the poles are 80 years old plus. That's the Second World War. That's the system you have in New York. It's quite old, obsolete. We're replacing it. We're trying our best. But with that type of system, it's very difficult to make sure, everything is perfect.
Both company leaders are anxiously awaiting the installation of smart meters that read meters automatically.
Once those smart meters are in place, that means every bill is based on an actual read. Customers have valuable information to make energy decisions and will know if there's any power outage at the customer's home or business. That's going to be a game changer for us.
In the meantime, I think we're putting resources, we're putting the right team, the right leadership, and just making sure people are comfortable calling us.
These will be installed in Rochester area homes over the next 3 to 5 years. And customers who have concerns about their bills are encouraged to reach out to the company. There are 2 more in-person meetings set for next Tuesday at Rochester City Hall. One is from 1 to 3 o'clock and the other is from 6 to 8.